On the eve of early signing period, the Tigers have secured yet another commitment, and this time it is your second transfer for the 2023 class. Let's talk about who that is and what it means for him and Auburn football. Before we do that, I want to remind you to smash the like button if you enjoy this type of content, and be sure to drop a comment below as you're watching or listening today. It will help enter you into that ongoing subscriber giveaway. Details are listed in the description. And lastly, want to always thank members of our booster club like Stan McCullers, who help produce videos like this. In this day and age of recruiting, it is just as important to focus on your high school recruits as it is your transfer portal prospects. And Auburn's still in the running currently with a lot of those big names out there considering Auburn, and maybe even some still moved on. But we can go ahead and celebrate our second addition to this class in terms of transfers, and that comes by way of an SEC opponent. Who is that individual? Well, it is Elijah McAllister, one of the linebackers, edge rushers coming over from the Vanderbilt Commodores to be part of this 2023 class. Being the second transfer in this 2023 class, you hope that he is going to be the start of some momentum building to some big signees coming down the line. But let's focus on this individual and get to know him right now. He comes from Rumson Fairhaven High School in Rumson, New Jersey, before he came from Vanderbilt as a transfer. You don't really see Auburn going up to New Jersey that often. He's considered a 3-star edge rusher, although a lot of people will attribute him still to the linebacker position because that's where he's coming from, maybe defensive end. We'll just see what happens when he gets here on Auburn and where he actually ends up playing in Ron Roberts' new defense. But he's going to be a 6th-year senior. He's had a medical red shirt, a traditional red shirt, which allows him one more year of eligibility to play with the Tigers. And I know you're not shocked about this, but this is another dividend of an incredible recruiting weekend for Hugh Freeze when it comes to high school recruits, transfers, and just bringing people in to be part of his program this past 16th through the 18th, where they had tons of people in. Glad to see that we're seeing the fruits of those labors. We've already mentioned a little bit about where he might play given his versatile nature, but what are some of his numbers? Let's talk about measurables first. 6'6", 260 to 265 pounds. That is a huge individual that's coming to be part of this team. Now let's talk about some stats that he had at Vanderbilt. He played in 37 games, had a total of 65 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 4 pass deflections, and yes, even 1 interception. That's a big man doing a lot of things. Now that you've gotten to know the player, obviously now we got to talk about what it means for him, but also what it means for Auburn. Let's start off by talking about what it means for the current class. Right now, this is the 17th overall commit to this class when you count in the 2 transfers, including him. Will be the 8th prospect on defense, and it will be technically the 2nd edge rusher position that is going to be part of this class. Now, we always like to talk about what is their options for playing time. And when you bring in a transfer of his limited time, but also his experience, you're bringing him into play. The question is exactly with this guy, where and how often? As we talked about, considered to be an edge rusher position. And when you think about that position for Auburn, Derek Hall, Iku Leota, they're both gone. That's not all the people that are leaving. You're leaving Colby Wooden from defensive end. And even if he somehow were utilized in a linebacker set too, you're losing a guy like Owen Papo. I'm not assuming they're going to be using him at linebacker. I assume edge and defensive end like everybody else. But just given, as I've said this word the entire time, versatility, you can't rule it out. So with only Dylan Brooks listed as a potential option at the edge position currently, you got to think he's going to see at least pretty significant playing time. Very quickly, I always like to talk about, in terms of recruiting, battleground states, regional type of stuff, where they're coming from. As I mentioned, New Jersey. You really don't hear Auburn going up there and making waves a lot. And not that this is really going to do anything for us in that category, because this is a transfer coming over from Vanderbilt, but it is nice to see some different states added into the mix of our recruiting class. And lastly, let's talk about what this commitment could potentially mean for the rest of the 2023 class. You already have that other edge rusher that's part of the class, Brenton Williams, 2 defensive ends in Darren Reed and Wilkie Denard. So in my mind, when you're losing a ton of depth, whether it's at the edge position, the defensive end position, even linebacker, if you want to throw in there as well, I got to think that this isn't the last of this position or related position that we'll be drawing in to be part of the 2023 class. So those are my thoughts on your brand new commitment and transfer for the 2023 class. Elijah McAllister, would love to know your thoughts about him down in the comments section below. Make sure you do that to be entered into that giveaway. And you have to be subscribed as part of the process, so make sure you do that too. Lastly, check out those links in the description for ways that you can help support us here at E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. War Eagle.